think it's more about the lyrics really, because in the end the lyrics are sort of saying that kind of no matter where you are and no matter what happens to you and what you do. Well, for me personally, I always feel that, and we have an expression in English that says home is where the heart is, and I think that's home because it doesn't really matter where you live or what house you live in. It's more about the people that you know and that love you and you love. I think that's home, so that's really what the sentiment is about, really. They are kind of love songs, but in some senses they're not personal love songs, and they're not really. It's So Good is very personal. That's a very personal song. I think actually the others are more kind of love songs, just as fantasies about love. And there's one song on the album, and it's my anti-war song. I also feel at this moment in time, it's like things are so kind of like hard globally. We live in very kind of uncertain times. We live in really frightening times. And so I wanted to use the songs as love songs for escapism, and I think especially for me, especially gay men, because I am a gay man, so they're coming from a very different point of view. They're coming from a man who loves another man, and I would like to think that men listening to the songs will kind of like get something from them. And I just feel at the moment we do live in very kind of uncertain times, and sometimes love is the one thing that does see you through so many problems. So in a sense, the song at the very end, that's a love song, but it's about passion. It is about love, but it's also about friendship, because I suppose friendship is also love. You know, friendship is a thing about love, and I suppose they come across maybe as personal songs, but they're love songs, but they're not. They're more about me trying to express a love as in people that are so close to you and people you need to be with, and that's, I think in these times that's really, really important. It's just more the melody, and it's a great song, and it's like, you know, it's a B-side, so it's not one of the singles, so it's not an obvious song to cover because it was a B-side, but it's more the lyrics. It's like it's a very passionate love song, but it's also about love, but it's about also how fragile and how vulnerable I think you can be in love. And in the song, when he was originally writing it, he seems to be lyrically kind of in touch with the elements. You know, he's outside, and it's about the moon, and it's like the stars, and it's just all outdoors, and that kind of appeals to me. So I think it's a really romantic song. The whole song is basically it's probably the longest relationship I've ever had. This song is about a relationship that I've had all of my life. So it's the strongest and it's the most consistent and probably the most powerful relationship I've ever had in my life. And that's vodka. The song is about vodka. For me, the one I love more than anything is Stay. It's a very kind of, for me, because I think it's a very Celtic sounding song. It's a very Gaelic, Celtic, it's a very Scottish sounding song. But it's also a very simple song, but I think it's incredibly passionate. And again, it's not about me speaking directly about something that's personal. It's just more about having experienced that before and knowing that maybe possibly people who are listening to the album are possibly maybe experiencing it or will experience it. For me, it's a great song to try and convey certain kind of images and emotions about what it is really like to be that in love, because it's an incredible feeling. Again, no, actually, that was more to do with, I think, just the time. You know, I remember the song from when I was younger, and the one that most people know is the Diana Ross version. The lyrics are different, but the one that I've done is the original one written by Ashford and Simpson. And it's not so known, this original one. But again, I think the lyrics are really great. They're really positive lyrics. They're lyrics of encouragement and kind of like, I think, empowerment and strength. And again, it's more to do with how we are today, the times we live in, the fear that we live in of kind of like terrorism, of governments now becoming more reactionary because everyone seems to be paranoid. I just wanted to do this track because I just love this idea that if you do have your friends and if you do have people that you really love, then whatever you now will come up against, it gives you courage to move on. And there is no mountain high enough, and there's no river wide enough, no valley low enough, you know. It's that kind of thing. For me, this time in life, not just for myself, but I think for everyone, I think love is just going to be such an important thing. Well, that's a great thing about doing all these collaborations, so it's not so personal. So I don't feel so precious about it, or I wouldn't be too scared for things to happen to it, because it's not such an introspective album. It's not all about me, really. So much of the songs are just about what I think and feel, but they're not too personal. They're not, especially the love songs, they're not really kind of like love songs about me, so that's kind of good, really. It was a good experience. I don't know if I would do it again. It was a different experience, very different. I've never done that before, so. Yeah, because in the end it's like it's my lyrics and my voice, so it's like, in a sense, I've been writing and singing things which are in my head. The majority of the tracks are other lyrical input, but mainly it's all been mine. So, but which again is a good thing, because it's not a problem to just sing songs and just to be an instrument yourself, rather than having to be this tortured artist so that everything has to come from inside you. It's quite nice to sing something that's possibly coming from someone else's imagination. So that was kind of cool. It could be anything, really. Like Selfish Days, because I'd done this track with Rolf Elmar, who's from Jam and Spoon. You know, this man is a hardcore techno dance, part of a dance duo. But then suddenly with him, I do the most softest and most classical and almost, to me, very communardish song. It's very much like that stuff that I'd done with Richard, very kind of classical influenced and very soft and balladish. I was expecting with him I was going to do this really hard dance song, and then suddenly we do this very, very different song. But that song was completely influenced by my observance, but also just kind of what I read in newspapers and what I think of society, in a sense. And this is about two people. Selfish Days is about a man and a woman, and once upon a time they were people who were part of society, and they had the kind of luxury of a life that was comfortable, and then suddenly, for whatever reason, these characters, I don't know what happened to them in this song, but what happens is suddenly they're no longer the people they used to be, and they now find themselves in the most vulnerable of situations, and also they find themselves in a situation where no one really seems to care anymore about what has happened to them. And that makes me so angry, because I see that happening all the time now, more and more, and it happens more and more to younger people. And I think that's one of the most criminal things that we can do to our kind of our youth as a society, to the youth of our country, is to allow them to just suddenly disappear out of the system and to find themselves vulnerable on the streets, homeless, hungry, no money, no job, and just suddenly their life is over, and yet they haven't even begun their life. And so this is what that song is about, really. So. And What's Your Game? That's a complete anti-war song. That's a song which is basically directed towards our Prime Minister, Tony Blair, because the song says so many lies, because we still believe that we were lied to about the reasons for going to war, because we were told there was weapons of mass destruction which could reach us within 45 minutes, and that was a major reason for going to war. But now the government is saying, well, that wasn't really the reason was because he was a dictator. But that doesn't matter, because Iraq was a sovereign state. So we had no right until the United Nations as an entity decided collectively to stop dictatorships. If the United Nations and everyone had agreed on that it was then up to us to go into North Korea and sort of say, this has to stop. Your people are starving, there's massive genocide, but still you're working on a nuclear program. Then if the United Nations decides that, then I'm completely behind that, because all these human rights abuses I think are shocking. But the reason for us going to war was a lie. It was a pure lie, and so this is what the song is about. And now look at the consequences. We don't know how many hundreds, and I believe it's like maybe not hundreds, but tens of thousands, if not possibly hundreds of thousands of Iraqi civilians have died because of this, And the frightening thing is, it's also a religious war, because the American government, most of the people are actually fighting a war based on their religious beliefs, based on Christianity. So, so some of the songs are not, so they're not just love songs.